Hello, everyone. I'm Ed here. Today, we're tackling complex, wicked issues and things that get you stuck. A lot of us are facing challenges in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situation, work-life balances, problems that don't seem to have or patterns rather, that don't seem to have a common root cause. And the more you address it, the more things change. So, in a complex system, solutions and answers have a very short shelf life. And you have to learn to ask better questions, find data and see what the data is telling you, and only to enable you to ask better questions. So we have a very simple protocol to help you get unstuck. And I'll show you 4 different variations. This is called power of questions, comes from the human systems dynamics. And the idea here is many smart people, they tend to frame a problem and they say, well, we know what it is, what the problem is. And immediately they jump into action like a trigger finger into the now what. And that's okay, but you need to train to really ask more questions, look at it a little bit more holistically, seek input from other, wisdom of the crowds, and so that you can expand the so what part of it. So really it changes from what now what to a what so what and now what loop, which is much more promising for you to get unstuck. Now, how does this work? So the first step, and this is the first way to do it, is to find a partner. Find a partner who's friendly, who's willing to provide a listening ear and support you, right? And frame your wicked issue in 3 to 5 statements. We don't want to boil the whole ocean. We don't want to describe everything about the issue, but 3 different aspects, 3 to 5 different aspects about that wicked issue. And wicked issues are, again, they have many levels, many stakeholders, massively interdependent, fuzzy boundaries, seem to get solved, but then show up again. So these are the type of issues that are useful to use this power questions protocol with. So you'll frame those 3 questions. So you'll provide that information to your partner and say that these are the issues I'm challenging. You don't need to provide secrets. You don't need to give details. You need to frame them in a way that the other person can understand. Now, this is where it changes because we don't want to make it into two-way conversation, which is what most coaches are familiar with, right? Getting into two-way conversations, asking powerful questions. But dialogue kind of comes in the way of inquiry. You need to be able to stand in inquiry, stand in that so what moment a little longer. So here, we'll ask the person who's presenting the issue to stay quiet for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, while your partner is going to ask questions. Now, these questions need to be open-ended, right? And these need to be not disguised advice. So you don't want it to be disguised advice and lead the witness that's not very useful or helpful. And it needs to be beyond the knowledge of the asking person. The person who's the asker should not know the answer already. So that's what partnership looks like. So you will keep on asking questions. And at this point, I would recommend the person who has a wicked issue, just take notes. Don't make it into the dialogue. Don't head nod. Just take note of all the questions. Some of those questions will be validating. And ask her, what are the power of questions? Is by asking a question, you'll find a better question to ask. So really take that question as a as an offering of love and affection. All those questions are something that a person's gifting you. Take that in, all those questions. And then once that time box expires, so that the so what is extended as long as possible, then we'll come back to this person. Okay, well, what are items within those questions that are within your control? What are reasonable? And what's promising in those questions that were asked? And what could be a short-term response? Again, we want to do something today, within the week, not do something that is so long ago, because in an adaptive system, things are changing too fast for you to say, hey, I'm going to plan ahead and the world is going to play out linearly like that. So this is where you select your next wise action and you move forward. And that is the primary way of using this power of questions protocol. A variation to do that, and it's been very popular in 2020, Human Systems Dynamic Institute started these daily power of questions sessions over Zoom. You could do it in person, but the protocol is very similar, which is that the person who's asking the question will provide 3 to 5 statements and then put themselves on mute. And there is Then one person that's on the call, they will take turns asking questions. You can ask the question again. That is also a way of saying, okay, well, there's other questions that are building context. This question was asked again, but the context may have changed. So you keep on asking questions, and at the end, which usually the daily call that HST says, and I'll share the link in comments below, is where it takes about 15 to 20 minutes with sometimes 5 people show up, sometimes 10 people show up. But if you have an audience, they all take turns asking questions. And you'll find that the diversity of asking questions, the power of questions actually changes, very different from a one-on-one call, one-on-one conversation. So that's another way to have a group session where there is one person with a wicked issue and people are taking turns offering questions. And then, other people can also offer that, hey, I have a wicked issue that I will seek your partnership to get unstuck on. A third way, which doesn't require as complex of a setup, is just simple conversation. Hey, friend or neighbor, I have a question. I have a wicked issue. Can you ask me questions to get me unstuck? And just with that simple request, and humans are very giving, they want to help, but just tell them you're going to ask questions, and it's okay that you don't know the answers to those questions, or you don't know. So what is you curious about? What do you find exciting? What do you find interesting about? And that could be a same protocol that you can use. And the difference here is that it is much lightweight, and all you're doing is taking in those questions, and then on your own, you can reflect on what's a possible next wise action. Now, these are the 3 ways. The 4th way, which is a little bit more interesting, I've been experimenting it with myself, is to use ChatGPT. Now, I have created a prompt myself, and I'm happy to share that prompt in comments as well, which you can use to use the large language model to say your wicked issue. And again, don't share any confidential information. Just describe the problem 3 to 5 steps. And these large language models are trained on data, in human data, that is still useful. And then you can have ChatGPT ask you questions. Normally, I get 10 questions from ChatGPT, and then I can ask it to ask me more questions. And I can mark the ones that are really something that I am in, that are making a difference in my mind, or something that I did not think of. So that's the 4th way to use that. So again, powerful questions, really powerful mechanism to get unstuck in very, very complex issues. I do it on a very regular basis. I highly recommend it. And if you have not practiced, come join the community and get to practice it yourself. And with that, I want to say goodbye. Thank you.